Hello and welcome to my Q&A for March. It is middle of April, practically middle of April, and I'm a bit late with this one, mainly because I ran out of time at the end of March and then I got COVID at the beginning of April. So here I am after I've recovered, ready to get this out of the way for March. So we can start with April, asking questions for the April one. If you're not familiar with these Q&As, these are only available to Patreon supporters to ask questions about. I do try and remember to release these to the public about a month or so, I think, or a few weeks at least after they've been released to my Patreon supporters. So without any further ado, I'll jump straight into it. I've only got two questions from March. They're both from Attila. So first question is, hi Matt, I hope you don't mind. I have a question about your previous job, Mud and Blood. For those of you who don't know, the Mud and Blood podcast, I was a creator and co-host on that. And I retired last, I think November is when I stepped down, November, December of last year. And it's now rebranded to Toa Tabletop, which my good friend Liam is still running. So anyway, you guys listed a bunch of games you were planning to review in the proper Mud and Blood way. Which game was it that you were looking forward to review but never got around to? We didn't actually plan to review all those games. We listed a bunch of games that we asked our Patreon supporters to vote on. There's like 20 games, I think, saying these are games that we would like to review. Which of them are the kind of your top choices that we should be looking at to use as a guide to help us decide what to review. And we did actually, the three titles that we reviewed last year, the first two, Warlock and Wrath and Glory, did come from that list. They were top rated choices on there. And the third one we reviewed was Sigil and Shadow, which was a wild card, which we'd always said we were going to keep in our back pocket if we needed to. So of that list, though, the ones that we didn't review that were popular, that were kind of highly voted for, and I really wanted to review, there are quite a few on there, actually. In fact, all of them on that list it's a curated list. And I and Liam both agreed that these were all games that we were excited about and would be happy to review. So it's kind of hard to pull specifics out of there. But if I had to pull out, let's say, three from that list that I really would like to review, would have liked to have reviewed in the proper Mud and Blood way and didn't get a chance to. The first one would probably be 17th Century Minimalist, which I'm a big fan of. It's lightweight. It's kind of Warhammer Fantasy roleplay in flavor. It's got some OSR stuff going on, a lot of flavors of Troika, for example, in it. And I just kind of really liked it. It had a lot of flavor and a very small page count. So that's definitely one of them. Just looking at the list here. And I'm also trying to look at ones that were highly rated. RuneQuest. I would have loved to have taken a deep dive into RuneQuest, so that's definitely one of them. I have bought a lot of the RuneQuest Glorantha books, and I haven't really had a chance to dive into them, including the starter set. So that's another big game I would have been keen to look at. And then probably something like, there's a lot of Year Zero Engine stuff on there, like Vaesen and Twilight 2000 and Alien, etc. I'm gonna push those to one side because this channel is really focused on those games anyway. I've run campaigns for all those games. So I think looking at some of the other ones there, it's probably going to be something like Trophy. Trophy is kind of it's a fantasy, like a narrative fantasy game that has really ripped off the Symbaroum styling, and has similar sort of themes to Symbaroum in terms of it being like you're exploring a wild forest, I believe. But it uses, I think, like the Cthulhu Dark rule set at its core, although there's like two different versions of it. I did back it, the Kickstarter for it, but only the PDF level. I've not really had a close look at the books, but I don't actually... I think I probably would have been quite harsh on it in having just skimmed a very small amount of it since. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be, and I kind of feel from my quick skim, this is going back a few months, that I wish I hadn't have actually backed it. So that would have been an interesting one to review, because I think a lot of people are curious about Trophy, certainly think that it's like a lightweight hack of Symbaroum, like narrative hack of Symbaroum, which I don't think it is really. And yeah, that just would have been an interesting one to get my hands into, like my teeth into, really. And just one other one to throw out there. There's two that start with the word Lex. Lex Arcana is a Italian-made Roman role-playing game. I kind of quite like the look of that. It's quite like mythical fantasy, quite dark, set in the Roman era, and I think set around Rome as well, although I'm not 100% sure about that. And the other one is Lex Occultum, which is kind of an occult 18th century game made by Riot Minds, who also have made Trudvang Chronicles and Ruin Masters. And I really like the premise of both of those games. Lex Occultum probably a little bit more, but yeah, they just would have been nice ones I think I would have liked to have looked at as well. So those are those games that I would have probably liked to look at. So thanks for that first question, Attila. Second question from Attila. Hello again. What is your view on Free League releasing D&D supplements like Symbaroum 5th edition? As it is known, you are not a fan of D&D. I am not a fan of D&D. I really don't like D&D, having played a lot of 4th and 5th edition. Would you review it like the starter set? So the starter sets I haven't actually finished reviewing on this channel. I do have interviews with the Symbaroum and the Alien starter sets already recorded months and months ago. I just need to record the sort of like first impressions sort of quick review that I wanted to do go alongside them to release. And it's just been something that's been put off onto the back burner for lots of different reasons as I've been focusing on other things. I'm not sure how much reviewing I'm going to be doing on this channel because it takes a lot of energy to create them. And if you're reviewing something, at least if I'm reviewing something, I'm a perfectionist. I really want to do a proper job of it. I don't want to do a kind of a half-hearted thing. And I don't know if I want to go into that level of analysis for a 5th edition game. I think especially because there's going to be a lot of people looking at the 5th edition stuff like Ruins of Symbaroum and whatever the 5th edition hack of or spin of the One Ring is going to be called, whether it's still going to be called Adventures in Middle-earth or something else we don't know yet. Whatever those end up looking like, and I know Ruins of Symbaroum is already out, people have just getting their hands on it, there will be a lot of reviews of them, so I don't really see the kind of there being a niche area for me to really get for those specific titles, me getting giving my opinions. Also, I'm not very interested in reading them in depth to give my opinions, so the likelihood is low. Would I review them? Maybe, but really, I think I wouldn't spend any money on it. So if Free League were to give me free copies of them to review, maybe if they do like starter sets for both of those games, then it might be something I might look into. But I don't know a lot about 5th edition, so I mean, I have played a lot of 5th edition. I've never DM'd 5th edition, so I'd have to kind of probably get out my... what I would want to do is I'd probably want to get out my player's handbook for 5th edition and look at where they've made changes and kind of discuss those changes, see if it's something where they've addressed some of my concerns with the D&D. Well, not concerns, the things I don't like about D&D, whether they're still there, whether they still exist in those games, or whether they've kind of been dealt with. So that's a long answer to say probably not. There would have to be a lot of things happening for that to happen. And with the amount of free time I don't have anymore, or the lack of free time, doing a review really isn't on the cards. It's not something I want to start getting into. And once I start doing review content, it kind of sets a precedent where people are going to be asking me for more, probably. Like Attila, you're already asking me for, because we used to do really long, in-depth reviews, and you have constantly asked about when we're going to be doing more, and it's just not something I really want to set a precedent for. So at this point, unfortunately, if you're looking forward to me reviewing content, it's not really going to happen on this channel. What I would probably do is do short looks or like first impressions of some games, but not 5th edition hacks. So games that are coming out by Free League, for example, or some OSR stuff, things that are kind of more in my interest, kind of lay within the stuff I'm interested in, or stuff that people are like my Patreon supporters, for example, might be really, really interested in. Then, if there's a loud clamoring that I look at something specific, then I might do that. That's it then for this month's Q&A. Well, last month's Q&A. There will be a new Q&A video going up, a new post on Patreon going up for new questions to ask for April. So if you have any questions for me, make sure to drop them there. And that's it from me. Thanks very much.